Good day, fellow Bintegers. My name is Biniam. Welcome to the Binteger podcast. Today is the 10th of December 2023, and we are diving into a new exploration into the theme of integrity. I am so thrilled you're joining me for a few moments. Today, we are asking a unique question, one that I had to do some research on because I didn't have an idea. And so I can't wait to share with you my thoughts. The topic is what is the difference between values, principles, and beliefs? Values, principles, and beliefs, are these all synonymous with each other, or are they just different words for the same idea? Or are they different? And how do they relate to the topic of integrity? We just finished a whole series last week on my list of prerequisites, value-wise, of what must be in place for integrity to be there. And I acknowledge then that is different from person to person because we all have different prioritizations or hierarchies of values that we say, this is really critical, this is really important. It's kind of like, if you will, the difference between the love languages. What's really beautiful about that idea of the love languages is that we're not all the same. We have unique, different ways of how we appreciate being shown love, and we also have our preferences in how we show love to those that are close to us. And so the beautiful part about that is acknowledging that there's a multifaceted approach to understanding someone well enough and understanding ourselves well enough to know what works and what does not work. Same thing as well, I believe, with values, especially in relation to how one goes about practicing and implementing integrity in their lives. But as we often do on this podcast, we want to start off with a feelings check-in. I've been looking through my Love Smart cards, which I really appreciate that resource, in addition to, of course, the feeling wheel, which you can check for yourself on the internet. Check in with yourself while I do the same, if you would. This is one of the ways that we practice integrity that begins first and foremost with us, honesty with ourselves. And so there's two sections in my Love Smart cards to talk about unfulfilled longings and the feelings that derive out of those, and fulfilled longings and the pleasant emotions that come from those. So I usually like looking at both and seeing, hey, where am I at? What is resonating? And so I look through the cards and then I pick a couple that resonate. And for me, in this moment, I'm feeling a little bit uneasy and irritated. And that because I was having such a blast 2 nights in a row that I've been out dancing with friends, and danced the night away, just immerse myself in it. It was so amazing. There was one individual, one acquaintance whom I met on the dance floor, and she was inebriated for one, yeah, but she felt that she had an assessment on me in the sense that she was saying something like, you're not being real. You're not, like, you need to be real. And she felt like I wasn't being real with her. And it was one of those, like, it just made me feel uneasy. You know, when someone comes and says, hey, you're not being real. I mean, that doesn't really foster that openness, for one. And it was also irritating because I'm like, but you don't know me. You don't know where I'm at. I'm feeling quite in equilibrium here, and you just kind of asserting your perspective and your insight. It's almost as if you're saying, you know me better than I know myself, and you're going to tell me how to feel, act, behave. That just doesn't work for me. And so there's irritation there's uneasiness, and it kind of carries on over to this moment where I'm like, that wasn't fun. And no, I don't want to be in that space. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's on the one side of how I'm feeling. As far as the pleasant emotions that I'm feeling, oh my goodness, let me tell you, friends, fellow Bintegers, I got home this morning at like 7 a.m. So after we danced the night away, there was a couple of after parties, and I got invited to both of them. But the one that I chose to go to, there was a hot tub, which is wonderful because my knees aren't at their strongest point right now. And so I went to the after party that had the hot tub option because I was thinking that would be really nice to sort of soak in hot water and ease my joints, especially my knees. And that was such a good move. And so this morning I'm feeling rejuvenated. Whereas if I hadn't gone there, I would be very stiff and sore, and I'd be really concerned because I don't hold back on the dance floor. Oh my goodness, I have such a blast. So I'm feeling rejuvenated because I got that time, but I'm also feeling rejuvenated for another reason. The reason I stayed till like 6:30 in that hot tub with my new friends was the depth of conversation that we were engaged in. And it was not only rejuvenating to my soul, like that just feeds me, but it was also super encouraging because there's experiences that I go through where I get some fantastic feedback from these individuals in my life, who I get to share space with. And multiple times, well, on the dance floor for one, I was super encouraged. I was just out there having my own good time. I was all over the dance floor and I was expressing myself and it was good. But I must be maybe like a dozen times when various people who've been watching me throughout the night would just come and ask things like, where do you get all your energy from? You haven't stopped dancing, you're just giving her. And others would be like, there's quite a few who are saying, it makes me so happy to see how you express yourself in dance. And so there's something palpable in the energy was mentioned a few times, like you've got this amazing positive energy. And so that was really encouraging and beautiful to hear. And then even in the aftermath of the after party, then conversations that were not choreographed, they were not expected. I did not expect to be out that late. And yet in the aftermath, looking back, it was a kind that just has a really good aftertaste where these individuals were coming and saying, this was unexpected and this was really impactful on some deep levels. And I'm encouraged by that. It was really encouraging to feel that, and that of course rejuvenates my soul because that's what I enjoy doing. And when you're in that space, dear Binteger, where what you do really well is also not only savored by yourself, but also resonates with those that you're serving, it's just such a happy combination. It's such a happy synergy, and so that's how I'm feeling. Let me quickly review some other terms, and I review these to serve you by way of giving you more vocabulary of words you can pick specifically to identify what you're feeling. And the more specificity we have access to, the more we're able to sort of fit that spot that says, okay, I understand this better. So in the unfulfilled longings category, here's some words to consider. I've already used uneasy and irritated for myself. Here's 5 more. Hesitance, confused, surprised, self-protective, and envious. Once again, hesitant, confused, surprised, self-protective, and envious. And then in the positive fulfilled longings category, here's some that you could choose. I chose rejuvenated and encouraged, but here's some others that you could choose from. Grateful. Oh, I'm always so grateful. Oh, I love gratitude. Huge. Grateful, fulfilled, satisfied. I love this next one. Open-hearted and engaged. Once again, grateful, fulfilled, satisfied, open-hearted, and engaged. May those serve you well as you consider them and their use in your experiences. Let's get back to the topic that we're engaging in. We have just over 6 minutes, so we're going to go through this. What's the difference between values, principles, and beliefs? Which comes first? Aren't they synonymous, meaning the same thing? Like, how do we understand the difference between these words, except for the fact that they're spelled differently? They're not, let me just put it this way, they're not synonyms, but they have a lot of interlap or overlap with each other. Interlap, that's an interesting word, but they have a lot of overlap. So let me just see if I can break them down, and I'll put them in a sequential way in how I believe that they flow based on the way I understand and define them. You may have some different perspectives, however, and I would love to hear those perspectives. So if you, as you're listening, saying, there's something you're missing here, I would love for you to share that in the comments down below or help me understand a different perspective, because I'm more than happy. I'm thrilled to hear different perspectives. But here we go. Values, I believe, come first. Values are these fundamental, enduring concepts or ideals that most societies hold dear. they say these are really important, and these are things like, of course, honesty and respect and fairness and consent, etc. But these are deeply ingrained in our moral compass society-wise. We're saying these are really important things. So those are values. And then from values, I think principles flow from values. So we've got if you can imagine the analogy of landing a plane. So the plane is way up here in the sky. Here's the overarching idea of values, these moral principles these moral categories that we think in terms of and say these are really important. That's really up high here. And then we start landing the plane, we come down to the altitude of the principles that flow from the values. And principles are like truths that govern our behavior ethically, if you will. These are derived, I think, from values, and they serve kind of as like guidelines and personal navigation posts, in our lives on a personal level and professionally as well. So these are, let's say, for example, those who work in healthcare or in law practice, there's a principle that you're bound by of confidentiality of the information that you're safeguarding, per se. And so these are sort of the guidelines of the truths that help us navigate our behavior ethically. So we got the big idea of values up here, honesty, integrity, all these things. And then you come down to the principles level and saying, okay, here's how now we exemplify and act these things out with guidelines that help us do so. And then finally, down at the ground level, when you're coming in for the landing, are our beliefs. Our beliefs are like convictions, if you will, or opinions that individuals hold to be true in reference to the principles that they subscribe to and the values that they sort of look to. And they're shaped by various factors from individual to individual. These factors are like your upbringing, during your formative years especially, your culture that you were brought up in, your religion that you may have been a part of once upon a time or still are, and of course your personal experiences. So all of these coalesce, if you will, to bring about this thing we call our beliefs and how we interpret principles and values. So beliefs influence how one perceives and interprets ethical scenarios that they find themselves in. Now, it's important to note that some beliefs actually challenge the very values and principles that they are subscribing to, because it's a very nuanced conversation saying, here's when I hold to these beliefs and values and principles, except for in this scenario or in this setting, for example. It's really critical to evaluate our beliefs and to check if they align, however, with our subscription to the values and the principles we hold. Does that make sense? Now, in the last couple of minutes, let me see if I can give you some examples. Let's talk about the value, for example, of honesty. Honesty is a very commonly held value that most societies would say this is really good and important. Honesty. So honesty, the value, the big idea way up here is that it promotes trust and integrity because you're always telling the truth. And then you come down to the, mid-altitude level of the principles. How does honesty, this value, get applied with guidelines? And here's where these guidelines can be manifested in a few different ways, like don't lie, don't cheat, or don't steal. Like these are all sort of wrapped in that category of big idea honesty, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, for example. And then the beliefs come down to even more practical ground zone, and that's like sometimes the value of honesty, like always being truthful, always, can be challenged, or don't steal or don't lie or that kind of thing. So let's say the don't lie principle of the big category honesty, the don't lie, except for, as far as beliefs that some hold, it's okay to lie if you're trying to protect someone's feelings for the greater good, for example. And that's how that could be sorted out. Do you guys see that now? Let me see if I can squeeze a couple more in here. Respect is another big value that many people say this is really important. And so that's the big overarching sort of like how we give honor to someone or their person, their opinions, what makes them, their dignity. The principle could be fleshed out as in it's important to be an active listener when someone's sharing their perspective. That's how you show them respect, is by listening actively or valuing diverse perspectives or being respectful even as you're listening to them. And then The beliefs could come about like the perspectives that are based on prejudice or like hate or things like that. We just don't tolerate that. And so those ones we don't respect, for example. I hope this episode has served you well in fine-tuning the nuances between beliefs, principles, and values, because we use them often when we talk about integrity. And integrity, of course, we say is aligning our internal values with our external actions. Thanks for listening in, fellow Bintegers. See you soon.